the Cornwall Milan Centre for X-ray Research. Are you aware what X-ray research is?
No.
So it's research into like X-ray vision. It's quite self-explanatory, the name. But basically, they kind of had a revamp recently. I don't know if you've ever seen. These are their sort of newest test cards. This is not a test card, hence why it says this is not a test card.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you've ever seen these symbols before.
No.
Not just like shapes, but on ESP cards. You've seen these?
No.
Okay, so these are used to determine extrasensory perception.
Right.
So often one of these symbols is chosen because they're quite identifiable symbols and hidden away, and the sort of ESP person has to tell you what the symbol is without seeing it. It's like a second sight thing. ESP stands for extrasensory perception.
Right.
It's worth knowing for my presentation. So look, I want you to I'll give them a little bit of a mix. I want you to take them behind your back in a second, and I want you to cut them, and then cut them again, and then cut them again until you're happy. Cut some from the top, cut some from the top, stick them on the bottom. Some from the top, stick them on the bottom, and then tell me when you're happy. Actually, I'm going to look at you while you're doing this, because you're going to do it behind your back. Right. So I don't see. So cut some from the top, put them on the bottom. Cut some from the top, put them on the bottom. And then tell me when you're happy. You've cut enough times, you're happy.
I'm happy.
Happy?
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't know what card's on top.
No.
I don't know what card's on top. I want you to take it and turn it face up, and then push it into the middle of the pack. So it's now sitting face up somewhere in the middle of a group of face down cards, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, you're going to bring it out in a second, but I don't want you to think that like a corner is going to poke out and I'll be able to see which card it is. So turn the entire pack face up.
Right.
So now your card is face down in the middle. So even if I could see a little bit of your card, I wouldn't be able to tell what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can bring the packet out in front of you now, it's in the way, and cover it up from the top also. Okay. So my job is then to go through and try and work out which card you've chosen. So I'm going to try and figure out which one's facing the same way and then which one's facing a different way. Can you just raise your hand a little bit? Move your hands to the side. Okay, I meant the other side, but that's good actually. No, that's good. That's good. So I think actually there's a sense of motion to whichever one you've picked. So it's not going to be the cross. I don't think it's the circle, but it's that sort of thing. So I actually think it'll be the three wavy lines is what you've picked. So if you uncover the cards, if I go through, there should be one face down in the middle, and that card is the three wavy lines. Okay, great. So look. To someone that's receptive, that is a demonstration of extrasensory perception. To someone like yourself who is a skeptic, I know what you're thinking, that is a example of sensory perception, because I could have just put them in some order and then seen every time you cut and tracked kind of where each card was. I didn't, but I could have. So I don't want you to leave thinking that I could just maybe see what you were doing, and that would be sensory perception. So again, this time, out in front of you, I want you to cut the cards. Cut them again. I'm going to turn away so I can't see them, so I can't see anything. Turn them. And when you're happy, take whatever's on top, don't look at it, put it down on the table and cover it up, and then you can stick the other ones next to it.
All right.
So I'm going to turn away, and then tell me when you're happy you've cut enough times. You happy you've cut enough times?
Happy, yeah.
And are you covering up your card?
Yes.
Perfect. I can turn around,
Yeah.
so I can't see it. Okay, and again, cover up this one too. So this time, I can get that out of the way. This time it's about determining which one is not in this pile. So I have to look through this pile and see which one isn't there, and kind of tell me what's there. So do you mind if I touch your hand?
Go for it.
I think this one's a lot more rigid than the last one, so it's not going to be it's not going to be anything like circle or wavy lines. It's going to be it's not quite as pointy as the star maybe, but it's going to be the not the cross. I think it's the square. Turn it over. Ah, there we go. Okay. So look, again, to someone that's open-minded, that is an example of extrasensory perception, but I know you're a skeptic. You don't believe that. You're going to go home and think, well, you could have just heard.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't looking, but I could have maybe heard how many times you cut, and there's a different sound each time you cut or whatever. I didn't do that. So I would have known which one is out. That would be an example of hearing, which is sensory perception. So this time I'm going to eliminate all of those things.
Right.
So you're going to know for a fact that this is the purest example of extrasensory perception that's possible. So, I'm going to give them a mix. You're going to give them a mix when you take them, so you know that I can't hear if they're in an order or anything. You're going to look at them this time, so you know that I can't switch the card. You're going to know which one you're taking out.
Yeah.
You're going to take it out of the pile and put it. Do you have a coat pocket?
Yep.
Put it inside your coat pocket, so I can't see it. I can't hear you shuffle them up, so I can't hear what's where. And then you're going to square the other cards up. Okay.
Cool.
I'm not going to look whilst you're doing this.
Okay. And I look right.
Fan them and take one out that you can connect with. Your coat pocket isn't transparent or anything, is it?
No,
Fine.
no. I've done that.
Are they squared up?
Yeah.
And can I ask, are the designs facing upwards or downwards?
Down.
Down, okay. So look, I don't want you to think that there's something on the back that's telling me what they are, so turn them over. But now so they're face up.
Yeah.
I also don't want you to think that there's something on the face. Obviously, I could be able to rule out if I saw the top one. I don't want to rule anything out. So, this one is not a test card. I want you to stick that on top, so I can't see, the backs are facing down and I can't see the faces.
Yeah.
And then stick them in my hand when you're done.
Yeah.
Okay. You happy?
Yeah.
I'm going to square them up and turn back around. So look, they're covered up. I can't see underneath. I can't see on top. There is no way that I could work out what card you've taken out. Okay. So I'm going to put my hand on top and I want you to put yours on top of mine. So from the cards, again, I'm getting quite free motion, but I'm also from you detecting a sense of familiarity. So I think that this is one you've chosen before, and I think the range of motion is telling me that that is, hold on, I think you've gone for the wavy lines. Take it out and show the camera. Wavy lines. There you go.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hello, I'm Spooky Nyman, and thank you so much for joining me for this, the first ever live magic tutorial. I thought you weren't going to join, you're a couple of minutes late, but you're roughly on time, so thank you so much for being kind of prompt and getting here roughly on time. If you can just give your webcam a bit of a clean too, so I can see you better. It's a fantastic top you're wearing. Thank you so much also for using your hard-earned coin to buy the ESP testing set from Spooky's Magic. It's something I'm very, very proud of. I'll tell you very briefly about the history of it in a minute. But this is really something, I tried to keep it as simple as possible with the instructions, so it kind of is a bit of a blank canvas for you to play around with the trick, but also just with the packaging. I think as soon as things get a little bit bells and whistles, then it attracts everyone and it ends up sitting in a million drawers across the world. And I don't want that for this. I think that this is a fun enough trick and a powerful enough secret that you will fool your lay audiences, obviously. But you also stand a real chance of fooling your magician friends, because this is a very, very underused method. Again, I'll come into the history of it a little bit in a minute. But you're sort of part of a secret club now of ESP testing set owners. So thank you so much for taking a chance on something that you didn't really know much about too. So to get into a little bit of the backstory of this is, I'll go into a little bit more detail on the specifics when we're in the explanation, but the rough idea is a Luber-Fiedler idea. Based on other people's ideas, but really the sort of core idea of this is based on a Luber-Fiedler idea that I think was from 1963, published in a magazine. And his idea was doing it with drinks. So it was cards that had drinks on them, and you could predict the person, not predict, but you could divine the person's drink with no sort of fishing or anything. And it's very good, but it sort of didn't, it doesn't, I don't think he ever released it, so I've seen diagrams of it. I'm a big fan of his and sort of collect as much material as I can of his, and I think this was something that never got released. But it's sort of half an idea, like a lot of his things maybe were. They're brilliant methods, but the idea doesn't really, the trick doesn't live up to the method necessarily. It's the sort of thing that you'd see and be like, oh, cool, but you could have just had sort of markings on the back of the cards, which these do, but the method was much better than the trick. So then over a couple of years, I've been trying to work out what could you do, and have various ideas, some of which will come out over the next few years that use this same method, and some of which won't. But this was the idea that I kept coming back to, because I think it is a design that people are as familiar with as they are with just the ESP symbols, that kind of ink blot test design, which brings me neatly onto the card. So anyway, so thank you, Luber-Fiedler. Rest in peace, for this phenomenal idea, and hopefully he would have enjoyed this application of it. So inside your envelope you will have received 8 cards. One of them had the instructions link, which you would have followed to get here, and the other cards are the trick cards. So I'm going to switch camera here to show you what they are. I've got my James Bond setup with my stream deck and everything, very impressive. So this first one, this is not a test card. On both sides it says this is not a test card, and it is not a test card. There is no gimmick to that card. We then have the 6 or 5 traditional ESP symbols, and that famous, the most famous of all the ESP symbols, the hexagon, because I wanted 6 cards. Anyway, you have circle, the cross, the wavy lines, the square, the star, and the hexagon. So there are 6 designs, and they all are that orange color with the blue sort of ink blot behind them. they are all marked on the back. So I'm going to put pictures up of this, but card number 1, for those of you who don't know, by the way, because this is something that I assume everyone knows, and actually some people don't, so forgive me if you know this, but I'm going to go over it for the benefit of those that don't. The ESP symbols are naturally in stack. So a circle has 1 line, a cross has 2 lines, wavy lines is 3 lines, 4 lines on a square, 5 points on a star, and 6 lines on a hexagon. That's a very, very, very easy stack to remember. Again, that card doesn't really count, but very easy to remember that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So they should have in your envelope come in that order anyway, so you don't need to reorder any. They should, it doesn't make too much difference, but they should all be pointing the same way on the back. And that is them in stack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So on to the markings. If you've examined the cards in any detail, you may have picked this up. It's bold enough for you to be able to spot it during performance, but I do think it's relatively invisible for an audience because it's buried in jargon. No one cares what this says. Hopefully they look like official cards from the Corman Milan Centre for X-ray Research, developed by ESP and Pippin, and they have reference codes on them. So it should look exciting enough to be kind of engaging for a spectator. I'll switch back cameras, why not? Engaging enough for a spectator, but also boring. No one's going to read the credits for these scientific test cards because they look scientific. They look like something that maybe you've been shown in an eye test before, or maybe you've seen people use in a lab or something like that. So it's kind of dull enough we don't really focus on it. But at the bottom of each card is a reference number, and that reference number changes. 1 digit of it changes depending on what card. So the reference on the first one, reference number is 190997, just by complete coincidence, my birthday, the 19th of September, 1997. Number 2 is 290997, the 29th of September 97, which is not my birthday. Number 3 is 390997. Number 4 is 490997. Number 5 is 590997. Number 6 is 690997. Very, very easy to remember. So it's the first digit of that reference number at the bottom, which you should be able to spot relatively quickly. So again, to correspond those to the designs, 1909 is the circle, 1 line. 2909, that's 2 lines, that's the cross. 3909, that's 3 lines, wavy lines. 4909, 4 sides, square. 5909, star, 5 points. 6909 is the hexagon. So they are marked on the back, which explains the first stage of the routine. So if I go through that, collect them in order. So the first stage of the routine is the person, after some sort of preamble, is invited to take the cards behind their back, take some from the top, put them on the bottom, keep cutting them, cut the cards, cut the cards. You have to be careful with the language here, as I am in the performance, which you'll have seen already, to not make it sound like shuffle them up. You don't want them to shuffle, you want them to cut, which is relatively difficult with a small stack. With a deck of cards, it's easy to direct someone to cut, but with a small stack, it's a little bit harder. So I think you really have to illustrate that they're not reversing the order or anything. And if they are able to lift some off and put them on the bottom, lift a few more off, put them on the bottom until you don't know what's where. Great. And then when you're happy, take whatever's on top and put it on the table like that. At this point, they put it on the table and you can look, and I'm staring at the card. So I can see that's 690997, so that will be the hexagon 6. They don't think anything fishy is going on at this point, so put that on the table, and then I can turn around and go, okay, and look, I want you to cover it with your hand too, so I can't see any of the information on the card. So at that point, I've glimpsed it. I've glimpsed the code on the bottom. I know that's the hexagon. They cover that, great, and then bring everything else out, and you can cover that too. So I'm not, all the work is done at that point. I've already glimpsed that. If I miss it, or I get nervous and I go, okay, cover that, and I haven't looked at it, then I can always look at the other cards here, cover that up, and then bring the other cards out. And again, when they've got those on the table, the heat's off that one, and again, you can cover these cards up. I can see that that's 5 is the one on top of this, which must mean, because they're in order, the next one is 6. So look, I'll illustrate that a different way. So take some, put them on the bottom, again, behind your back or onto the table, cut them, cut them, cut them. They're cutting them. Okay, so whatever's on top, bring it out and cover it up with your hand. That's great. Okay, so I've missed the mark. That's all right. And I'll bring the other cards out and stick them on the table. That's great. And you can cover these ones up with your hand too. So I know that that's 1, which means this will be 2, the cross. Beautiful. Not very light there. There you go, the cross. So that's stage number 1. So stage 2 of the trick does not utilize the marking. Stage 2 of the trick is inspired by a trick that I have done for a long time. It's my favorite trick, which is a trick that's normally done with Stebbins stack with a regular deck of cards. I learned this trick from Pat Page. Larry Becker has also taught this trick. I don't know the history of it. It's cited to a million different people. It goes back really, really far. But those are the people that I learned it from at least. And it's a trick that's normally done with Stebbins or any stack that's sort of loosely cyclical at least. And I've done it with these cards. So if I switch over, you'll see that by the end of the first stage, they're in some order that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So even if they've been cut and the cut completed, they'll be in 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. So they're going up 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. You want it reversing for the next stage. So what I do is casually whilst I'm talking, just peel cards off and reverse shuffle them like that. So now the order is 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's descending. So if they cut it, it will still be descending. It will just be interrupted. So 3, 2, 1, 6, 5, 4. So it's got to be in descending order. It doesn't have to be. You might have an easier time just keeping them in the same order and doing a little bit of not mental maths, but you just have to think about another thing. But for ease, I would urge you to reverse the cards. They're now descending where they were ascending before. So they take the cards behind their back and you tell them again, face down, they're going to cut some off the top, put them to the bottom again, cut some off the top, put them to the bottom until they don't know where anything is, cut some off the top, put them to the bottom, yada, yada, yada. Same as the first stage. So this time you do the spiel about saying, now look, I might have beforehand, an email came through, a very important email, sorry. It wasn't an important email, it's actually a newsletter. Ridiculous. You do the spiel about the first stage might just have been sensory perception. If, for example, this was highly polished felt, which it's not, no such thing exists, but if it was, or the wood was polished, maybe that's plausible, and you took your card out, I might have slightly glimpsed around, seen a reflection of your card and known what your card was, and I'm just lying to you. That would not be extrasensory perception, that would be sight, which is a sense, and that would be sensory perception. That's not impressive, and I know that you're not that skeptical, but if someone was skeptical, they would kind of claim that that wasn't a fair test. So we're going to do it again and make it fairer. You're not going to separate your card out here just in case I'm catching a reflection. What we're going to do is take them behind and cut them. So that's how you get into that. They're cutting the cards behind their back. Okay, great. Stop whenever you want. Don't let me influence you. They've stopped. And now the whatever's on top, you're going to turn face up and put in the middle of the deck. So they're turning face up, whatever the star is currently on top, and put it somewhere in the middle of the pack face up. So now the pack is face down, but your card is face up in the middle. So look, before you bring them out, I want to cover all bases here. I don't want you to think that there was a corner of your card sticking out when you brought them out, because it's face up, I can kind of see what it is. So I want you to turn the whole packet over. So now everything is face up except for your card in the middle. Your card is face down. So even if I was to catch a glimpse of a corner or an edge or something, it wouldn't reveal it. What your card was to me. No, great. Okay, so bring them out, and this is where your glimpse is. You bring them out, great, and just cover the top also, so just in case they cover the top. Well, there I glimpsed what's on top, which is the square. So I suppose it is using a marking, but the marking is the face of the card, so no one suspects that. Great, so just cover the top for me, and it's very casual. I'd really urge you to not overthink it. I glimpsed that that's the square, and because I reversed them, I'm now, like I was in the first stage, counting 1 up. So square is 4, 5 is the star. So I can kind of hold their hands maybe and divine. Okay, so I think this time I'm looking through the cards, I think it was probably the only one that's dulled a little bit. And I think that's because it's facing down, it's the star. So I think you'd have gone for the star this time. They then spread through, and sure enough, the star is the one that's face down. So look, I'll show you again. So look, 5, 4, 3, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 6. They're in descending order. So look, they cut them behind their back. They cut them, and whenever they're happy, great, I'm going to do it under the table this time. Turn the card over, put it in the middle of the deck. They do that, and now turn everything over and bring it out in front of you. So if I switch, you can see it really clear. So they bring it out, great, and just cover the top for me. Great, they cover the top. Okay, so that was 2, which means that the card that was above it is 3. So in the middle is the wavy lines. Okay, so I think I'm getting kind of motion, I think, from your hand, so I think it's probably the wavy lines. They go through, and sure enough, they take out the wavy lines. Just for some explanation as to how this works, because it goes in order, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, if you cut the cards. If I cut them and then take out the top card here, there is an interruption between the bottom card and what is now the top card. It goes, the top card is 6 and the bottom card is 4. So 5 is missing from in between those because it's going in a circle. So that will be the star. So when they, even though it feels like it's kind of shuffled in a random order because they're putting it in the middle, when they take one out and push it into the middle, it means that the pattern is disrupted and there's a gap between those two cards, if that makes sense. So you're able to know that it's just the card up from that, which is the star. And at this point, you don't have to keep them in order for stage 3. Stage 3 is the boldest one of all, and it doesn't need to be in order anymore. So this time, I don't have to worry about taking the card out and putting it back into its position. I can take the card out of where it was and kind of put it back in where it was if I want to, and then shuffle them up, because they do not need to be in 6 through 1 or 1 through 6 order anymore. They can be genuinely shuffled before stage 3. Okay, so stage 3 is the magician fooling stage. You will fool layman with the whole thing, but magicians maybe will know what's going on with certainly the first stage. But the second stage is a little bit more ambiguous. A lot of people don't know that trick, even people that do stack work. It's a completely fooling trick. This stage, though, is the absolute gold standard. You're going to have a lot of fun taking this to conventions or showing buddies or whatever. So the cards are marked on the back, obviously, with the reference code at the bottom, but they are also marked on the face, and not just because the shapes are different. So this is the Luba idea, and he did this with drinks cards. I'll put an image up. I'll put a couple of images up as I go along, just for a bit of clarity on this, because it is a little bit fiddly, but it is worth it when you get it. So the blue ink blot design is not as aesthetic as it seems. It actually serves a really important purpose. And I'm sure now I'm talking, you're looking at it and noticing, oh yeah, there's quite an obvious purpose. If you haven't got it, I will explain it to you. They contact the bottom edge of the card at different points. So one contacts against this corner here. The blue contacts the bottom edge just here. 2 is a little bit inset. There's a bit of white in the corner and it's contacts there. 3 is a little bit more inset from that. 4 is over this side. 5 is towards that end corner. And then 6 contacts the card in that corner. And it's the same no matter which orientation. If some of the cards are turned around accidentally, they still contact the edge in the same place. So the whole deck could be turned around, or just a few cards could be turned around, or if anything gets turned around by accident, it isn't the end of the world, because the trick will still work completely fine. So this we're going to think of as position 1, right up against the edge. This we're going to think of as position 2, which is not the edge, but not the middle. Position 3 is just left of center. Position 4 is just right of center. Position 5 is in between position 4 and the very edge. It's sort of closer to the edge, but it's not right at the edge. And position 6 is at the edge, which means that when you put the cards together and you can give them a shuffle, they do not have to be in order. This is going to be a little fiddly to show you on camera, so I'm going to put some photos up whilst I'm talking about it. If I bevel the cards in the action of squaring them up, I'm actually beveling, using my thumb to push all of the cards over to bevel them. You actually start to see the edges of the cards, and that's very difficult to see on camera, so I'm going to take a photo, but there's not a bad view of it. You start to see the edges of the cards and where they make contact. What's quite hard to see is the top card, if you're just looking at the edge, because it doesn't really, there's no white above it to contradict it. So this is where this card comes in. When you lay it on top and then bevel, you now have white, so you can see the marking underneath. It makes it much, much clearer to see what's underneath. So you sort of disprove the second stage by explaining that, again, a bogus explanation. They know it's bogus at this point, but it's still quite fun to go along with it. Look, maybe I secretly knew the order the cards are in, and I heard how many times you cut them and roughly how many cards I think you cut, so that I knew roughly what would have been on top when you stopped. I mean, the truth is that isn't that far. It's obviously not a hearing thing, but it's not that far away from the explanation, which is you knew what they cut because you looked at the bottom and then you knew what was on top. But it's sort of plausible enough, but clearly a lie to really be in that fun, ambiguous zone, I think. And also fun for a performer where you're kind of disproving the method that you did actually use. Obviously not hearing, but roughly the method you used. Again, that would have been not extrasensory perception, but sensory perception, which is not what I'm trying to show you. So look, the test I'm going to show you now is hand on heart, the only true test of extrasensory perception that is performable in the world. Something like that, whatever your personality is. So they are to shuffle the cards while you're turned away, so you don't know what order they're in. So you're disproving the methods you're using, and that is actually the method you use. They were in order. So look, I don't want to know what order they're in just in case I peeked it or / they were in stack. So shuffle them up, and when you're happy, fan them towards yourself and take out any one you want. Now, I like to do it where they know what the card they're taking out is. But I can understand that that won't work for some people. You want to keep the mystery and the reveal, but most of the time I would say I do it when they know, because I think the impact is much stronger if they know what you're aiming for. So say, for example, they take out the star. Great, shuffle the other cards up, and then put the star somewhere where I really, really can't see it. I don't want to see the front, I don't want to see the back, I don't want to see any bits of design poking out, whatever. Cover it up. They cover it up or put it in the pocket or whatever, and I'll put the other cards in my hand. At this point, I need the cards face up. But what I don't want to do is just go put the cards in my hand face up, because why? It doesn't really make any sense. So what I do is go put the cards in my hand. Okay, so look, if I turned around now, are the cards face down or face up? They're face down. Okay, I don't want, so either, yeah, the two options that they say it's face down, and then the explanation is, I don't want you to think that secretly there is something on the back of the cards that is telling me maybe what the top card is, and then I know, oh, you haven't picked the wavy lines or whatever. So turn them face up and then use the other card to cover it, or are they face down or face up? Face up. Okay, now obviously if I turned around and I saw what was on top, it would tell me by process of elimination what your card isn't. Even if it was just one card, that's one less wrong answer. So I've got another card on the table that isn't a test card. I'm obviously not handling it at this point. Take that and stick it on top so I cannot see what's on the face. So either way is a win, but I wouldn't say put them in my hands face up, because it's a little bit suspicious. Okay, look, I'm going to turn around now and I'm going to square them up so I absolutely cannot see anything. That is a lie. I'm not squaring them up. I am beveling them so I absolutely can see something. So now, and again, I will insert a picture of this so it is much clearer for you. I am looking at columns. The blue that contacts the edge overlaps. Some of the 1 and 2 overlap by a little bit. Don't worry about that. That's just the way that the design falls. There will always be a blank column when a card has been taken out. No matter what the overlappings are, there will always, if you've beveled all of the cards, there will always be a fully blank gap. So I can see there is a blue line in position number 1. I can see there is a blue line in position number 2, position number 3, position number 4, and then there's a blue line in position number 6, but there is no blue line in position number 5. That is completely empty if I scroll down. And they're not in they're not in like descending or ascending order, but they are, the columns do go numerically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know that number 5 is missing. And the more you do this, the quicker you'll get at knowing the differences between 2 and 3, 4 and 5. 1 and 6 are easy, they're other ends. But those ones very quickly you'll pick up, oh, okay, there's nothing next to the corner, which means it's number 5. You know, if there's nothing next to the corner marking. So that is how you get the glimpse, and then they obviously react amazed and then reveal what their card is for the benefit of everyone else. So that is stage 3 of the ESP testing set. And that one really, really is, I think, the gold standard. And you can disprove every method that maybe they've thought about beforehand, or like I do, you can provide them with fictional methods if they're not thinking along those lines, and then disprove those. But that is completely imperceptible and completely fooling. You can also disguise that peak however you want. So what I tend to do is, look, I'm going to square them up. And again, I want you to put your hand, I'm going to put my hand directly on top of them, and I'm looking at that. I'm going to put my hand directly on top so I can't see, but I want you to hover your hand a little bit above so I can pick up maybe some signals from you, whatever that mumbo jumbo is. But don't, obviously, make sure you don't go, okay, so look, you put the cards in my hand, because then it's like, what are you looking at? Whereas having some reason to look down at your hand or the cards. Okay, so look, the cards are in my hand. I always see the weight difference is there's no difference in the weight between the cards. So it's not like I can tell which 5 cards are in my hand. You know, even something like that, which gives you an excuse to kind of bring the focus down to the stack, which from their angle is not beveled. Their angle is completely covered. But it means that I can glimpse really, really quickly. And then if I want, you don't need to, just give them a little bit of a square there and completely square them up again. But you don't need to. And I would also urge you not to go, okay, so look, yada, 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 and then put them on the table and go cover them up. That to me feels like, why did they ever go in your hand? You need to make a point of them going in your hand. So providing some ESP explanation for, I need to cover them up and get a feeling for the cards, providing an explanation for why they're in your hands and keeping them in your hands is really, really important, because otherwise it is suspicious you took them in your hands. But those are things that you'll find along the way, and you'll find ways that suit your personality to make that work and make that moment really, really land. That is completely impossible. You haven't seen their cards. You haven't seen the fronts or backs of the other cards. Everything is covered. You've been turned away. They were shuffled beforehand. How on earth is that possible? And it is possible with the benefit of edge markings. thank you so much again for buying the ESP testing set. It really, really means a lot. And I really hope you enjoy it and find some fun things. Please get in contact with me if you have any questions or concerns, or also any thoughts, any presentational ideas that you've had, or any other stages. You don't have to do the first 2 stages. They are normal ESP cards other than the edge markings and the back markings, so they can be used for any ESP routine you would do normally. And they're nice. Aesthetically, they're really nice and a really interesting departure from traditional ESP cards, without feeling too kind of radical and alien. So have fun with them. And if you have any ideas, or you have a brainwave for, actually, this is what I'm going to do for the first stage, or I'm going to swap those stages around, or this is how I present it, get in touch with me, because I love hearing stuff like that. And I reply to everything. I'm very, very interested to have conversations about these things. So you can email me, and I'll put this up at the bottom of the screen at spookiesmagic@hotmail.com, and I will read it and I will reply to you. It might take me a little bit because I'm very bad with emails, but I will reply to you. So let me know what you think, and keep it a secret. It's really a rarely used method, and I think it's important to not just immediately share methods with magician friends. It's exciting too, and if they really like it, obviously point them in that direction, because it might mean that they buy one. But don't just refer to it as, oh yeah, it's like the edge mark DSP thing, because it really diminishes a secret that people don't know about. That's generally across magic, I think. You'll fool magicians, and a lot of magicians will react by going, oh yeah, very nice, very nice. So they're kind of marked, are they? And they don't know what they're talking about. They're guessing and fishing and hoping you tell them the method. So really keep it a secret. I know that sounds patronizing, but I would urge you to do that. If you liked that, there are 3 other things you can buy. There is a trick I've got called Folderol that's on sale through loads of shops worldwide, or through spookiesmagic.co.uk or mazelmagazine.co.uk. That is a paper folding giveaway card reveal that's very, very sweet. I have also a trick that came out very recently, as of late 2021, which is where we are when I'm filming this, called Mental Colour. Now, Mental Colour is a adaptation of the number cards, the calendar cards that maybe you got in a Christmas cracker, but with paint samples. So your spectator picks a paint colour from Abbott Paint's new seasonal list, and then you divine whether it is a popular color or not by them telling you which, whether it appears on the cards, and then you're able to tell them which color they picked. They're really, really nice props. There's no memory work required. And other than a very justifiable question, which I explain, it's not like, oh, well, it could be one of these 3 things and then you fish. You get it bang on every time. So there's that. And there is also Mazel Magazine, which is my magazine that comes out every 2 months. If you like the ESP cards, if you like the mental color trick, then you'll really enjoy Mazel Magazine. It's interviews and articles and tricks. There's always tricks by me that live in this very silly, interesting world, and tricks by contributors, great contributors. There's interviews and recommendations for tricks, and it's a very funny, very kind magazine, and that ships worldwide, and it comes through your letterbox once every 2 months. It's print only, there is no digital edition. So if you like having a sort of tangible thing to read, then I would recommend you go to mazelmagazine.co.uk and sign up for that. But again, get in touch, any questions, concerns, anything like that. And again, thank you so much for buying the ESP testing set. I hope you have fun with it.